My name's Cara, and you're watching my YouTube channel, CuteWitch772. It's a lot like Disney Channel, except that I'm probably too old to be on Disney Channel. A couple videos ago, I promised you guys a funny story that happened to me that has to do with science and religion, and it's going to be a video response to a pagan perspective topic that we did a couple weeks ago on science versus religion versus spirituality. The actual week's topic was about talking about the difference between science and religion and the difference between religion and spirituality, but instead of actually talking about that, I'm just going to tell you a funny story. So last month, during my college's campus day, which is the day where we have no classes and we do community service work, I am a TA, a teaching assistant, so I had to go with my freshman class, who are really all transfers, so they're not real freshmen. I had to go with my class down to the farm down the street. It's an organic farm, and we were going to do some work with them there for our community service. On the way walking down the sidewalk, I was walking next to my oldest student, who has come back to college after spending a really long time in the military, so she is 50 years old. She's a mother of 4 kids, so it's really weird for me to be teaching her. But so I'm walking with her down the sidewalk, and the two people in front of us are the professor and the TA for another class. So we've got me, my student, another professor from a different class, and another TA. My student asks the professor in front of us, "What's your class about?" And he answers, "It's the colloquium on science versus pseudoscience." My student asks him, "What is pseudoscience?" And I ask, "Is it like stuff that we think is scientific but really isn't?" And he says, "Yeah, it's all that fake stuff like crystal healing and energy work and aromatherapy, all that nonsense." About that. So we fall back a couple of steps, and I whisper to my student, "That's all the things I do." And she starts laughing really loudly, and the professor in front of us turns around and says, "Excuse me?" And my student's like, "Oh no, sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at her because she said that's all the stuff she does." Okay. So the professor then turns around to me and says, "So you lie to people?" And I say, I really don't think it's lying. I never claim that it's a medical solution or that I'm a doctor or anything like that. And I think that anyone who would tell someone that this is a medical solution to their problem does deserve to be called a liar, because it's not. It's just a different kind of thing. And he says, "You know that this has no basis in scientific fact, so in essence, you're lying to people." So I'm attempting to laugh at the situation, but he seems pretty serious, and then his TA turns around and looks at me like... And at that point I'm like, okay, I'm just done talking right now, because I thought I was at a liberal arts institution where I could say that I believe different things. I don't know where that got lost in translation, though. So we let it slide, and we continue walking, and we put some distance between ourselves and this other class, and my student looks at me and goes, "That was kind of rude for him to say, wasn't it?" And I said, Yeah, it was. Kids, in case you didn't know, and yes, I call everyone kids, even though I know that not everyone that watches this channel is a kid, nor am I just speaking to children. People, please, pay attention, people. Alternative therapies are just that. They are alternative therapies. They are not a medical solution. They are not the scientific thing. It's something different. It involves faith. It involves other things, but I do think that there is a scientific basis. It's not completely based in science and things that you can prove by calculations and formulas, but there is a certain bit of science behind the things that we do. There are reasons that certain scents evoke certain things. There are reasons that certain rocks and crystals and minerals have certain properties, because the actual property of the stone, which I believe you would consider to be something involved with science, has something to do with why we use that crystal for that particular thing. So yes, I think it's wrong to say that these things like aromatherapy and crystal healing and alternative therapies are based in science, and it's wrong to say that it is the medical solution, because obviously if you have a broken arm, like, go to a doctor, get a cast, I mean, crystal healing can certainly help the way you cope with it and help you along the way, but it's not gonna do it by itself. I think we all know that. This professor seems to think that we just go around passing ourselves off as doctors, and that's not the case. Saying that we lie to people just based on what we do, a little bit presumptuous maybe. So I mean, obviously we're not doctors, but there is a little bit that you can pass off as, it's not all bullshit. It does take belief, and it's not gonna work on its own, and it's just It's a totally different concept. It's totally separate, and I just was not gonna go into that with this professor at this time, especially with his TA being all like, "Rah." So that's my funny story about science and religion, even though those kinds of alternative therapies don't necessarily have to do exactly with religion. Maybe you would consider it spirituality, but you know, it doesn't even have to go specifically with a certain category of religions. For me, it's part of my religion, it's part of my faith, it's part of what I do, and I was called a liar by a science person, so whatevs. So leave me comments, leave me responses, leave me reactions, whatever you have to add to this, and I am going to stop talking now. I will see you guys when I see you. Thank you very much for watching. I'm the Queen of the Night, and I will see you next time. Bye! And I ask, is it something that could go? I can't talk. Okay. P.S. I turned in my application a couple days ago, and the professor told me if I do that, I have a spot, so I'm going to England next year.